So if you stick around to the end of some of my videos, you may see this. This is a little boot up I made for branding on animations and games I may create. I haven't really used it in anything real yet because I keep flip-flopping between projects leading to major burnout, but I am proud of it if nothing else. I wanted to specialize in 5th generation hardware limitations because I'm not a great artist, and thus I looked at similar console boot ups you might have seen during that time. But now I'm here and thinking, yeah, ranking them all on a tier list sounds like an amazing use of time. So here are the ground rules. For one, we're looking at this comprehensive list of video game consoles I found on Wikipedia. So while Windows Vista and Leapfrog devices are video game consoles to some degree, they aren't counted on this list. Secondly, the console needs a boot up screen. It doesn't count if the console boots straight to the game or UI, so that rules out a lot of earlier game consoles like the NES, but also modern ones like PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch consoles. I will count the 3DS though. Also, the boot up needs to be singular, meaning it can't be unique per game. Sorry, Sega Genesis. And lastly, I need to be able to find decent footage of the boot up on YouTube. I don't have the time or money to buy a PAL Sega CD Model 2 just to see what the boot up looks like. That said, sorry if you see any YouTube UI in the footage I have. My bad. And with all that, I got 48 different boot up screens to rank. Now, as for how we're judging these screens, ranging from F tier to S, I'm looking at general effort, enjoyability, brand recognition, practicality, and hardware demonstration. As you can imagine, I don't have much nostalgia for most of these consoles because I am an '02 baby and a lot of these are from long before I was born, so I won't let nostalgia get in the way of any of these rankings. And I think that's it as far as introductions go. So let's jump back to the oldest console startup I could find. That being the Magnavox Odyssey 2. Is that a 2 or a square? From 1978. This thing's almost old enough to be my dad, holy cow. You know, it's the first, and it has a decent jingle and color, which saves it from F tier. Next is the Atari 5200 in 1982. You know, for a console that predates the NES and Return of the Jedi, this animation is actually pretty impressive with its smooth color fading. It's a pretty iconic use of the Atari logo, but the lack of sound means I can't put it any higher than C. Okay, let's move from the 2nd to the 3rd generation of consoles. Starting with a console, I was shocked to see not just 1, but 2 startup sequences depending on where you are in the world. And it's not even a 16-bit console. Behold, the Sega Master System. This is the boot up of the Sega Master System in the West. It's the origin of the Sega tune. I also saw some video of instructions on resetting the system and inserting the game in one video, but I can't find it now. Whoops. Anyway, for being the origin of the Sega tune, I'll give it a B. But in Japan... What? What is this? And how do I get more of it? You get an 8-bit remix of the Space Harrier theme in the background of a starry sky on a rolling planet that syncs to the music. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first S tier and further proof that Japan has the secrets of life that we may never know. Alright, what's next? The Atari 7800. This exists. This might be worse than the 5200. While the logo is smoother, I don't find it nearly as charming, and the scan lines over the Atari branding really do it no favors. This might actually be our first F on the list. Okay, now... Ooh! A Nintendo console. Finally! The Famicom Disk System had a startup. It's... Huh. Well, I like the animation of Mario and Luigi running around, that's a highlight, obviously, but they do it to no music after a pretty underwhelming startup jingle. This could probably fit comfortably in B tier for the animation alone, and I do like that they brought this back for the NES and Famicom Minis. Those are nice. Great, now it's time for the 4th generation of consoles. This was the 16-bit era, and there were a lot more consoles trying to steal Nintendo and Sega's thunder, which I guess we technically start with the TurboGrafx CD? Okay, Neo Geo, I know absolutely nothing about SNK or this line of consoles. You know, I've heard about the startup from that one meme, and honestly, as far as it goes, it's pretty alright, like the opening to a weathercast. I might put this in a solid A. Now it's time for the Sega CD, or Mega CD, depending on where you are in the world, and holy cow, there are a lot of these. Let's see if I can properly filter these out. Let's start with the Model 1 in the US. So it has some neat music and logo animations in space, but not really much else. It kind of looks like a computer screensaver from that time, which if anyone here is a wallpaper engineer, Sega may have some ideas for you. I think this is another B tier, honestly. It's alright. I bet the Model 2 is better. I genuinely can't tell which one I dislike more. This one is a lot slower with worse music, so I guess that's going against it. This is a high C tier. Appropriate for the CD, I guess. Alright, let's see what Japan has in store for us. You know, I think I like this color palette a little bit more than the Western one, but the animations are all so bland, honestly. This can probably go right next to its American cousin. But what about the Model 2? Honestly, it's pretty samey with just a worse background. Yeah, Sonic is here, but he just looks like a popsicle. So once again, this is hitting the C tier. Oh wait, Europe got 2 as well! Brilliant! Okay, I think I'm sick of this song now. Is it just me, or does the Earth look marginally better than the American one? Still not as good as Japan. Wow, it's just the worst Japanese background with no Sonic. D tier. Yay, I never want to see a Sega CD ever again. Next, oh my god! Yeah, so apparently the YouTube poop machine known as the Philips CDI counts for not 1, but 3 startup screens. I guess there were different iterations because it was also a DVD player or something? I'm just gonna call them 1, 2, and 3. Wow. It may just be Sega fatigue, but that was really solid. A fun little animation with the logo evolving as opposed to just bouncing around, and a jingle that really just sings 90s home media. I'm gonna put it in an A tier. I wonder if the next one will be much different. Wow. It's like the director from the other one just yelled, "Bigger!" from the back, and they just improved on it. It's a little longer than a startup screen should be, which keeps it from S tier, but it definitely edges out its older brother for me. The third one must be S tier. You know how I said the original just screamed 90s home media? This one just screams 2000s computer art program animation. D tier. Are we finally out of this CD craze? What do you mean the Neo Geo CD exists? What do you mean there are 2? This one is bland, I guess. C tier. Dang. Be careful who you call ugly in high school. High B tier on that end. And we're finally out of the 4th gen... Wait. Handhelds? Yep. Time to get into the handheld market. This should be quick. Game Boy, go. Okay, maybe not that quick. It's very iconic, but the logo lowering is very slow. Probably B tier. If it was just sped up a little bit more, it'd be much higher. Alright, now Atari Lynx, go. Atari Lynx? You exist? Is that Tobey Maguire? What the heck is this? Great. That's all 4th gen handhelds with startup sequences. We're finally out of this section of history. 5th gen is not gonna be fun. Let's start with the FM Towns Marty? Slick screensaver, someone who knows wallpaper engine should get on this. As a startup, it's fine. A little long, B tier. The Amiga CD32? I read a comment saying they put more effort into the screen in this commercial than the actual console. Not terrible. Pretty reminiscent of the Neo Geo CD. I put it right next to it. Alright, what's next? Atari Jaguar. Man, Atari, it's been a while since you've had something that isn't F tier. What you got? Wow. That's just lazy. Oh! Oh. That's cute. It's very reminiscent of Rareware, honestly. I'd honestly give it an A tier if it were just a little bit quicker on the uptake, but you did impress me with your final console, Atari. 3DO. What the heck? This thing's almost a minute, and the space theme is getting really old, not gonna lie. Honestly, D tier, simply because there's nothing here we haven't seen already, and the startup time is just insane. I do like the little graphic in the beginning, though. Oh yay, another console I've never heard of. Huh. Take note, CDI3, this is basically the basic computer animation with much more charm than you. It's much more snappy, showing off multiple forms of animation within a small runtime. I dig it, but not a lot. B tier. Man, it seems like I'm getting a lot of B tiers here. Sega Saturn, oh my gosh, there's so many. And they're all similar enough where I can justify grouping them all together. It's an alright startup of pieces flowing into the logo. Though I like the logo of the US one, the jingle of the Japanese one, and the High Saturn is there. B tier. Alright. You know what time it is. What can I even say? This was the defining moment for everyone. I know it's technically a 2D startup and did little to show the 3D capabilities of the PlayStation, but I don't care. This is an S tier jingle with phenomenally fitting visuals to boot. Top of the chart, unquestionably. Anything else before handhelds? The Apple Pippin? Sold only in Japan? Pippin. That's a horror movie sound. F tier. Great, that's all the home consoles from this gen with a startup screen. You may be thinking I'm missing one, and we'll get to that later. For now, it's time for some Virtual Boy. Full disclosure, I couldn't find any solid footage of the Virtual Boy startup, at least nothing consistent, but it really is nothing short of abysmal. F tier. Okay, the Tiger Electronics Gamecom. I've never heard of this thing. I mean, if this commercial is anything to go by.
I was surprised for all the slackers, but nothing better to do than play games and surf the net all day. Gamecom! Thanks to be touched!
It must be fantastic.
Gamecom active.
I had no clue there was going to be this many F tiers, but holy Hannah. I need a palate cleanser. Okay, this is what I think when I think Game Boy startup. Much quicker than the original with a color edition. Honestly, S tier work here, Nintendo. Alright, we'll combine the Neo Geo Pocket and Pocket Color since they're basically the same, just one has color. That might be better than the Game Boy Color. That was the right amount of adorable a Pocket Neo Geo needs. Fantastic final outing on the list. Wonder Swan? I've never heard of this. D tier, next gen. Things are thankfully going to be much simpler from here on out. Starting with the 6th gen, we have a pretty stable number of competitors in the console market in comparison to just everyone from before with multiple console iterations per generation. Since the beginning, we've had a lot of developers who stepped in and out of the console market, including Magnavox, NEC, Commodore, Philips, Atari, EA, Apple, Tiger Electronics, and now Bandai. The last company to drop out until the present day would be Sega with their swan song, the Sega Dreamcast. Dang. That's so soothing. I really like that. It really fits the whole dream aesthetic. I love it. S tier. What's next? Yeah, this gen had it cooking in terms of startups. Nothing short of S tiers. Is this better or worse than the PS1 though? You know, the PS2 actually showed off some graphical capability opposed to the PS1 in its intro. And let's be real, who doesn't want to live in this city? Astro's Playroom literally made a whole level around that concept. So yeah, the current king of the court is the PS2. And I doubt anyone could beat the PS2. Oh, you're not making this easy on me. Obviously S tier. This shouts fun. This shouts what you're about to get into, plus little Easter eggs. Better or worse than PS2 though? Okay, don't take this as definitive, but the GameCube edges it out slightly for me. Slightly. I may just wake up tomorrow and think that the PlayStation 2 is better though. They're both fantastic. This next one better not be another S tier. Okay, to be fair, I think this is still an S tier startup, though slightly weaker than the other two. Not because of the creep factor though, at least I don't think. Was I the only one that was terrified by this when I was a kid? I think it's iconic and intriguing, but also kind of leaves questions in a way. Like, I feel like there's some kind of lore here I don't know. I feel more confused here than I was the other ones. Did J.J. Abrams direct this? And then there's the one handheld to cover for this generation, the Game Boy Advance. Ooh, I like this more than the Pocket simply because it refrains the simplicity of the Game Boy Color while showing the technological enhancements that have been made since. A textbook startup sequence. Man, not a single stinker in this entire packet. Wait, the N gauge? It's not terrible. It's very reminiscent of a phone animation of the time, so I'll give it a B. Man, we almost had a full S-tier generation, but alas, Nokia just had to try and make a game console. I will admit, I'm the most nostalgic for this generation, given that I'm an 02 baby, but I never had a PS2 or a Dreamcast growing up. I have a PS2 now, but I don't have the same amount of nostalgia for it like the GameCube. I genuinely think these are all some of the best startups in the history of gaming, and sadly, it's all downhill from here. Starting with the Wii, boot-ups became less and less common, because it's much easier to just turn on your system and get to it like a phone. Gosh darn kids with their short attention spans, they can't even sit through the 3DO startup sequence without checking MySpace or Hotmail. Sad, sad, sad. So, let's get to the 7th generation. Now that's how you do it, Xbox. Way better than the original boot up. This is just sleek and performative. Everything the Xbox 360 was trying to sell you on. I'd honestly put this above the original PlayStation. Let's check on the competition. Yeah, this is definitely Sony's weakest. It's not bad by any means, and this was my first PlayStation. The orchestra definitely hits what the PS3 was going for with the all-in-one media center. The sparkles and water current are iconic, but I don't know, there's something so off about the whole thing in comparison to the other two. Like, it doesn't belong. Am I the only one who feels this way? I guess it feels a bit more in place with the PS4 or 5's aesthetic. And like I said, the Wii didn't have one, though. The Wii gets an honorary S tier in my opinion. While it doesn't have a traditional boot-up screen, it has quite possibly the greatest UI to grace God's green earth. The problem is that if we were ranking UIs here, we'd have a much different video on our hands, so maybe another time. Now let's get to the two main handhelds of this generation. Including all DS variants here, it's simple but a little less brilliant than the Game Boy line. Say it with me now, B tier. On to its competition. Yeah, I was harsh on the PS3. This is the weakest of the Sony startups. I'm aware this is technically two boot-ups, one for the console and the other for the game, but I'm equally unimpressed by both. The first half sounds like a PSP trying to replicate PS3 level sound quality, and the second half is quick and simple and definitely the better of the two, but it's also kind of forgettable. A really weak outing for what might as well be Sony's last entry, because similarly to the Wii, I don't consider the PS4 or Vita to have startup screens. Say it with me now. B tier. And that was Gen 7. Very brief and mostly unimpressive. Now we've got 3 in Gen 8 and 2 in Gen 9. Almost there. Yeah, this is more a testament to the Wii U's horrible reloading times as opposed to the screen itself, but goodness, this is abysmal. F tier. Next is the Xbox One. Wow. Might as well be a model tilt. Here I was thinking Microsoft would pull out 3 S tiers, but no, that's a flat out D tier. This is the epitome of oversimplifying logos and marketing. Jeez. And onto our handheld, the 3DS. That's, I'm sure it looks better with the 3D on, but still, that's nothing in the grand scheme of things. D tier. Pity for Nintendo's final outing on this list. Alright, Gen 9, homestretch. Now, the PS5 does technically have a startup sequence, but only when you turn it on for the first time, and I couldn't find reliable footage of such. So, sorry Sony. Xbox Series consoles, on the other hand. You know, this is very basic, but it really solidifies that innovation feel that this gen would be notorious for never fulfilling. The lighting on the logos as it fades to 2D is actually really impressive to me. It's just kind of like the Dreamcast, which is soothing. A tier, much better than the one. And then there was one. Yeah, I'm counting it. Not bad, very techno, and a fun animation with a Steam logo. It's probably better than the Xbox Series simply because of the animation. And we're not done just yet. There are a few boot-ups I encountered in my research that would just be unfair to exclude, because they're pretty novel. Let's start with the Sega Channel, which was essentially a game streaming service on the Genesis. There's a GameSack episode that goes into much more detail on it. Oh, that's a fun little animation for the startup. I really like it. A tier. Next is Nintendo's equivalent of such, the Super Famicom's Teleview. Wow, this is like the disc system, but significantly better. The music has an aura of space oddity to it, like this is a worldwide phenomenon. High A tier. Now, for my biased opinion. The one you may have noticed I skipped in the 5th gen, and subsequently the main inspiration for the animation that I made that started this whole thing. I present to you the Nintendo 64 disk drive.
Hello!
You know, this is my list. And to that I say, this is not only the best of Nintendo's boot-ups, but the best in this whole chart. Not only does it simply show what the Nintendo 64 DD was capable of with basic water textures and the N64 logo, but it also has Mario running around while there's no disc inserted. This is an S-tier startup that Nintendo has everything to gain by bringing it back at some point. I only feel kind of bad that I held it at gunpoint and ripped it off. Controversial opinion, but this is the best. Unless, of course, our final contender can hold a candle to it. The Sega Dreamcast Developer Kit startup. No clue what any of that means, but nonetheless... We were robbed of this great setup. It persists with a dreamlike aura of the original, but with better animation and a more whimsical logo transformation. Maybe had this been the startup, Sega would still be making consoles today. And all the current Sony games would be exclusive to them, so maybe this was a good thing. And that's all of them. All the ones I care to cover and could find reliable footage of, at least. This was significantly more effort than I thought it would be, but I love delving into the past with these startups and such. And it's a shame that this seems to be a dying art form, given the rise of PC gaming and the preference for quick boot-ups instead of fancy brand ones. But man, this is an art form I will surely miss. Maybe indie developers can help keep this alive to some degree. Even Kojima's splash screen seems to have this kind of energy. Or maybe Sega will single-handedly, given their love for bringing back commercials from the 80s. Anyways, thanks for indulging me on this topic. I'll link to the tier list in the description so you can make your own, but let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Did I rip down your childhood, or did I praise one of these far too much? Let me know. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in my next project sometime. Thanks, y'all.